That's right, you beautiful people. Today I am talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins and who their worst contract is. Welcome back to the Hockey Show. Of course, I'm your host, Owen, and I'm so glad that you've joined me today. Thank you for clicking on this video. Let's jump into the bad deal. So let's start off with Chris Letang, who signed till 2028 for $6.1 million. Now, he just signed this deal, and it's one that makes absolutely no sense to me. So, Chris Letang is just coming off his best season ever, well, points-wise, with 68 points. It's his career best. Congratulations, Chris Letang. The thing about it, though, is that he's 35. 35! And it's a weird one to me. The Penguins are a team that everyone's has been saying for the past at least 3-4 years now, has been saying that this is going to be the year that they fall off. They won their last cup, then they lost the next year, and it was like, well, this is the year they fall off. And they just keep pushing, no matter what the odds are. They bring in guys like Brandon Tanev. They bring in guys like Mike Matheson, of all people, and they are made fun of. They're made fun of on a yearly basis, and they just keep going. And Chris Letang has been a part of that core for so long. He's been their top defenseman, at least. Well, at least the top guy, of course, Crosby, but whatever. He's been their top defenseman for the longest time now. And this was his best year at 35. I mean, congratulations. His last few years, 45, 44, 56, 51 points. So, that's kind of where his career's always been at. Sometimes he was a little bit more in the 30s, but usually it's in the 40, 50s range. That's how he's usually been. His second best year was 67, which was actually the year before the last one I think I wrote on the board, or two more. So, this was far and away his best year points-wise in his career. So, I mean, Chris Letang, great defenseman. Really, I gotta be honest, doesn't really seem to be falling off. The thing that scares me about this deal is that the Penguins are a team that are currently going through the Sharks phase of they have their old guys. They're trying to win now still. They're still trying to push. That's why they're bringing guys like Rickard Rakell. And they're still trying to win, but they're keeping around the old guys and signing them to the long-time deals and trying to sign a young guy to a long one. And that's what's scary. They had to get rid of John Marino. Yeah, I think you... No. Who? Yeah, John Marino. No, yeah, John Marino. Whoever their young defenseman they just had to get rid of was. They're getting rid of these young guys that need to be the future. Instead, they signed guys like Chris Letang to a 6-year deal. And he's 35. Do you think this is going to age well? I mean, Letang has seemed to age well just fine. I mean, he just comes off his best year ever at 35. But defensemen especially, and especially a defenseman on the Penguins, where the other top guys of this team are going to have to start falling off a little bit, you got to imagine. And Letang, I mean, I guess congratulations, but to me, 6 more years. This year, sure, I don't see him falling off. But within the last, at least, I would say this next year, he's fine again. I'd say he ends up in the 40s or 50s. Maybe even this, no, I would say 40s or 50s, so career usual. And then maybe the next year, it's kind of a low 40. Maybe he gets just 40. And then the last 4 are kind of scary and not very good. So that's kind of my prediction for Chris Letang. I mean, especially as a guy is 35. I mean, a guy, especially a defenseman in the NHL, and how much more offensive and skill-based the league is getting. A guy like Chris Letang, yes, amazing defenseman. But to play against those guys and play against Austin Matthews and having to try to block his shots and stay with him, how much more he's going to have to fight and move and grind and use energy in a game, it's just going to slowly wear him down more and more and more. Because through the decade that he's been an amazing defenseman, goal scoring was down, but now it's starting to go back up, and now he's going to have to play against guys in his division with guys like Zibanejad and Panarin more, and has to have to use a lot more energy and strength to fight against these younger teams that have better skill and speed. So, I mean, if you get what I'm saying, imagine playing 82 games a season, if you even play that many, then trying to get to the playoffs, and over these years, and you're already 35, now you're going to 36, 37, 38, and this contract ends when he's 41. I mean, there's just so many factors that are going to speed up his fall, which is a bad deal. So Chris Letang's scary contract. But then we move on to a guy like Jeff Petrie, a defenseman who's paid more than Chris Letang off a new deal, having 2025, so it's 3 more years. He came off 27 points, which was a bad year over the last few he's had. 34 years old, Jeff Petrie, just traded from the Canadiens. I mean, the Canadians want Mike Matheson, I guess. It was a weird trade. I remember everyone's making fun of it, and the Canadians even said something defending themselves. But through 2017 to 2021, Jeff Petry's seasons with the Canadians, he was in the 40s. Every single season, he was in the 40s. Before that, in the Oilers, he wasn't really doing anything, but he really hit his stride there in the 40s. Nothing amazing, but a solid, just a good defenseman to have on a team, right? Not anything special, not anything crazy, but someone you want to keep around if you already have him. So he comes off a bad year. He only got 6 goals, I think something like that, and 27 points. Not very good after his bad year. And they trade away. As much as Mike Matheson isn't really an amazing player, he wasn't doing the worst for the Penguins, and they move him out for a guy like Jeff Petry, who just showed that he's on the decline, being paid more than Chris Letang for 3 more years. Now, once again, the problem is, it's not like Mike Matheson's a young guy either, but Jeff Petry's not young either. So the thing about the Penguins that they're just, I don't know if they're just trying to avoid. I don't even know what they're trying to avoid. I don't know if they're trying to admit that their guys aren't old. Because, guys like Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, they're all up there. Even guys that aren't in that list. The only young future guy they have is Jake Gensel. It's not like he's, amazingly young. I think he's, 25 or something like that. 26, maybe even, 28. I'm not entirely sure, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest. Not entirely sure how Jake Gensel is. But I know he is the youngest good guy that they have going. And they move in a guy like Jeff Petry instead of trying to trade for a younger defenseman, who knows, from Minnesota or something, So it's a strange deal that they've got going on here. It makes no sense to me. Bringing in Jeff Petry makes no sense, and his play is already showing to decline in that last year with the Canadians. I know the Canadians were absolutely terrible last year, but still, bringing him into a team that is aging altogether is just a weird move to me. But moving on from Jeff Petry is a guy, Brian Rust, a player that is coming off once again a career best season for a guy on this team. The Penguins had everything going from the last year. Brian Rust, Letang, these guys just all putting in all the work that they can. And Brian Rust, 58 points, the best he had. His second best year was 56, but usually he seems to be in the 30s. It's 30s to maybe 50s, I think. And not bad, nothing special. The thing about it for me, once again, he's 30 years old, so he's still got years of prime left in him. But a guy like Brian Rust, he's a speed-type guy. I feel like when you put a lot more wear and tear on yourself, like a guy like Brian Rust having to really use your legs to get under you, and another fact that I'll get to in a second, too. But the thing about his deal, once again, 6 more years till 2028 for $5.125 million. It's just a deal that makes no sense for this team that needs to try to bring in the younger guys to replace Crosby and Malkin and Letang. And I know Brian Rust has been on the team for a long time, but Brian Rust isn't one of those guys that is going... Brian Rust doesn't rub me as one of those players that is going to stay strong until he's 36. He's the type of player that will be over with by the time he's 34, That's the type of guy Brian Rust. I would say he's kind of done now because he's played with Sidney Crosby every single year that he's been around or something like that. Crosby's his guy. And Brian Rust, Crosby, I'm not saying that he's getting worse, but his 84 points this year wasn't the best year ever, and Crosby's getting up there as well. He's 35, so you gotta imagine as Crosby gets older and just everybody in general gets older, the guy like Brian Rust, who I don't want to say relies on Crosby, but that is a part of his game. It's a bad deal for me. For my mind, this is a bad deal just all around for Brian Rust. He's not a $5.1 million player. A guy like Timo Meier, who's getting close to 40 goals, or could be a 50-goal scorer if he's on a better team, gets paid $6 million right now. Brian Rust gets in the 20s and has no really assists because all he is a feed for Sidney Crosby. So it's a bad deal. But for me personally, if I was to name the worst deal on this team, there were a few I kind of wanted to maybe say, but these 3 seem to be the ones that scream to me. And for me personally, I believe that Chris Letang's contract is the worst one. Because at least for Brian Rust, he does have his speed, and guys that have their speed usually don't really seem to lose it that much, say like a guy like Carl Hagelin. So he will always have that going for him, and $5.1 million is less than $6.1 million. And Chris Letang, I think, has a bigger drop that could he fall down to, where Brian Rust, I feel like, could, let's just say numbers, like, let's say Brian Rust at his best is a 10, and I feel like his worst that he could drop down to is 6, and Letang being at his best is a 10, I feel like he could drop down to like a 3. So that's kind of where I think about this team. But that's what I have to say. Chris Letang's contract is the worst one on this team. It's just the biggest risk in for the oldest guy. So that is all I have to say about this one. If you liked this video, please pick up your free subscription by hitting that. Oh, by the way, yes, this is a real Yager jersey from whenever Yager played. Yeah, this is really cool. Usually I point back here, I have my red thing, but I guess I'll point to my red shirt. So thank you for watching. Please pick up your free subscription by hitting that red subscribe button. If you liked it, leave a like, not a dislike, but go down below to the comment section and tell me how stupid I am for deciding to pick Chris Letang's contract out of everyone else. Please tell me how stupid I am. How stupid am I? Tell me down below. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I have been your dapperly dressed host, Owen. Too sweet. I hope you're having an amazing day, all you beautiful people out there. And ta-ta for now.